Well, it is a pleasure to be joined by Republican Congressman Mike Collins of Georgia. Congressman Collins made a name for himself during the speakership battle as he really tried to tweet through the controversy and the tension with some terrific social media posts on X and his use of memes. He's become known for that as one of the funnier members of Congress, but also a serious legislator as well. And so we thought this would be a good time to get a chance to get to know him a little bit. Congressman Collins, thank you for coming on the DC Debrief. How are you?
Wow, it's Thursday afternoon. It's a great day. We're back at work and trying to get the work done for the American people, which we were sent up here to do.
Yes, sir. And I know that it must have been frustrating for you and your colleagues during those 3 weeks when you were looking for a new speaker, going through the many different candidates and all of the fighting that was going on. And I'm sure there are so many layers to that we just don't have time to get into. But I really thought your approach on social media, particularly on X, just trying to tweet through it with memes, I thought was really effective because everybody was taking it so seriously. And of course, it was very serious, but you were shining the lighter side of it. And I thought that was really important. What was your motivation behind that?
Well, I'm from the South, and it's a very serious situation, and it was. But as most people from the South will tell you, I mean, we've got a little bit of humor streak in us, no matter what we're doing. Whether it's you can take old Jeff Foxworthy or old Louis Grizzard that used to be around, or any good Baptist church on Sunday morning, there's going to be a joke or two in there somewhere, So it's just a little light humor, just to break the tension, And it was a good time to do that. It worked well. As a matter of fact, it's enabled us to really continue to get our message out, but to so many more people now. So I'm grateful for that part of it.
Yeah, I think it was a breath of fresh air, and people just can it was just a way to realize that, and some of it was kind of farcical almost. And I think you were kind of shining a light on that a little bit as well. Yeah. And just I know this has been, your first year in Congress. Can you describe for me what the first 10 months has been like as a new member?
Oh, wow. I'm going to tell you, small business person. Started several businesses. I've worked side by side with my wife for 32 of 34 years. And usually in small business, when you make a decision, it's done. That's it, end of discussion. But up here, there's 435 people that want to make that decision. And so it's been, even with speaker, you take who you want it to be, but then you've got to make sure that everybody else is on the same page you are. I think that's been one of the hardest things for me to learn is just the fact that when Mikey says it, it may not always be exactly so right then.
Right. No, and now you're one of 6 candidates who have thrown their hat into the ring for the vice chair position, which is, again, as I mentioned, the spot that the new speaker once held. Yeah. What has been your pitch to the conference that you're the one for the job?
It's real easy. You take even in my private life, I've always wanted to be the most technologically advanced, safest, most productive in whatever company that I start, trucking, for instance. And that's always allowed us to be the best in our industry. I can't tell you how many times I've won Trucking Company of the Year. And it's because we like to push that new technology. And when you look at the Republican Party, and you take those memes, for instance, let's just use those as an example. We're reaching an entirely different audience. Republicans have always been known for having great policy, but really bad strategy on messaging. And it's because we still do the same things that we always did, whether it was print media, TV, or radio. And I'm talking about just local TV. And so that's our message as far as what we want to do to help get the conference message out, is to reach a new group of people that can help us expand the conference by using different social media platforms, just like your platform right here. More people that are 45 and younger, more than ever, don't even have TV at their house. Yep. Everything they get for information is sitting right there in front of them, and that's their phone. And whether it's a podcast or a meme, and whether it's funny or serious, I really don't care. As long as I can get you into the church, We'll let your preacher do the rest and present the message and get you across on the message side. And that's the way I've always looked at it. And plus, we've been working for this conference even before I got elected. I went out across the country campaigning for other candidates. So we've been doing a lot here with field hearings since we've been elected. I love to work. It's in my DNA. And I think that we could be a great asset to the conference in a behind the scenes position, which is what this is. It's not a glamour shots type thing where you're out front. You're in the back working.
Yeah, and I know that there's a lot of work going on right now with regard to some of the different funding packages that are going to need to be discussed. And we're speaking on Thursday afternoon. There's going to be a lot of discussion about the aid to Israel package, and I know there's been a desire to link it to, or to pay for it to make cuts to the IRS. And there's been a lot of conversation about whether or not to tie it to Ukraine. Obviously, I know many in your conference are against that idea. Can you talk a little bit about where we are as we record here on Thursday afternoon with the Israel funding and what your position is on that?
All right. Well, we're going to take up the funding for Israel tonight. I think some of our votes started at 11:30 tonight, so we should walk off around 1, I think is the estimated time. But let's take Israel versus Ukraine. It's apples and oranges. First of all, you're talking about an invasion of land on Ukraine side from Russia, somebody that just wants to reclaim the old Soviet Union. It's not about the people. Now, on Israel's side, this is about genocide. This is about a group that wants to wipe an entire race off the face of the earth. They don't care where they're at. They don't care about the property as much as they care about killing every Jewish person there is on this earth. And that we've got to stop. That's two different things. The European Union should step up to Ukraine and help them. We've done way more than our share to protect that border up there. So it's time for Ukraine. And the other thing that we could do with Ukraine, it'd be so simple, is to go back to producing our own oil. I mean, how do you think Vladimir Putin got all the money that he's got to fund this war? It's because he's selling oil, because we don't produce our own anymore. We're buying it from people that hate us, including Russia. So we could easily remedy that problem over there. But my faith also tells me we are to protect Israel, period. And it's in the Bible. And so from my faith standpoint, from a standpoint of these people are being attacked by a terrorist group that want to kill them, tells me that it's kind of a no-brainer in my book.
Are you concerned at all about some of the resistance, even from some Republicans in the Senate, about using a pay-for of cutting funding to the IRS in order to balance the cost of funding Israel? I know the CBO came out yesterday and essentially said it would actually cost more than it would negate anything. But I know the CBO is a controversial group with some folks.
It's not that. All right. Well, let's put this out plainly, because I'm a simple type of guy. All right, so we're taking $14 billion away from the IRS to fund Israel, and that's much needed. As a matter of fact, you know how they came up with the $14 billion? Netanyahu and them sat down and itemized exactly what they needed. This wasn't just a pie in the sky number. So it's people that told us exactly what they were looking for and where they needed help. That's first of all. $26 billion, that's the CBO's estimate. What they never factor in there is, where does that money stay if the IRS doesn't collect it? It stays in the private sector. And what does it do in the private sector? It'll turn over 7 times, generating far more than $26 billion that was when it's sucked out of the economy in one fell swoop by the IRS. So, you can throw me in that argument all day long, because it's been proven over and over. 2 things: you lower taxes and you keep money in the private sector, you'll get more tax revenue in there. And 2, if you keep the IRS off of the backs of the American entrepreneurial, which over 90% of the business out there are small businesses, where they don't have to spend all their time with accountants trying to stay out of trouble with the IRS, which is bogus, because you have to prove that you're innocent with that crowd, then the better off this country is. So I have no problem taking it to task with the IRS.
Looking at the government shutdown possibility in a few weeks, I know the speakership battle prevented you all from really being able to make any headway on the many
Yeah.
appropriations bills that are out there. It sounds as though Speaker Johnson wants to have a stopgap measure put in place until mid-January. Do you think that's going to happen in November? Do you think we will avoid a government shutdown?
I do this. I take the same attitude that I took last time, and that is, I am not going to commit. I want to push this to the last day to see how many appropriation bills we get out. Because to me, once you say that word that shall not be said, CR, everybody quits focusing on appropriations. It's amazing how we go back to the old, kick the can down the road. But I understand the reasoning now on what we've got to do. I think there is also a push to maybe go towards April. And the reason that is because if you don't do the appropriations by December 31st, a 1% cut kicks in automatically. But it doesn't go into play until the first quarter. So that's why the push to the end of April, to really force the hand on everybody to make sure these appropriation bills get done. But there's a second part to that, making sure we get appropriations done. It's not just the budget number of cutting funding, but there's that rules and regs side over there that we've got to rein in, because we've had almost 10 years of nothing but omnibus bills where we just stacked up piles of money, throw it at a federal agency and say, hey, we'll see you next year. Have a great year. And they have just been emboldened. And the amount of overreach. And these people were all hired during the Obama administration. So you can imagine where their ideology really sits. And so between their overreach, their excessive regulations that they're constantly imposing on individuals and small businesses across this country, that's where we've got to really hone in and cut out and defund those rules and those regs. I'm excited because we've got several amendments coming up today on some different issues that we feel like the federal government has really overstepped their bounds, and hopefully rein them back in. That's why I continue to focus and say we got to pass approach. We get up to the last day. I don't care if we stay here till midnight. Then we do whatever we've got to do to make sure that our military and our personnel are funded. That's the main people I worry about. The rest of that is going to be paid.
Last thing for you here, sir. And I notice on your social media accounts, you post a Bible verse every Sunday as well. Yeah. And obviously this is a Christian network, a Christian ministry. I'm very much enjoying getting a chance to know you, and would love to know a little bit more about your faith journey, where you are right now in your faith, and how it affects your legislative priorities.
Well, my dad always said, you can have God without government, but you can never have government without God. And if you think about that simple little statement is very profound, because morality, everything can fit into that. You can't have government without God. You wouldn't have a society. You'd have a ruthless whatever out there. But as far as my personal faith, I mean, man, I'm from the South. My grandmother, she picked me up every Sunday if we weren't going to church. I was going to church.
Yes, sir.
And so I grew up early on in the Methodist church on Sunday morning. Then my granddaddy went to the Baptist church. So I went to choir practice at the Baptist church on Sunday nights and on Wednesday nights. So I was always in the church. And I think that's a lot of what we're missing now is morality and a godly influence. Even when we took God out of prayer and prayer out of the schools, because when I think back on my early days when I could only ride a bicycle to town, that's where we met. We met at the church and we hung out there. And so we were always close to that. And we always had that taught to us and preached to us. And so it was not that complicated to give my life to Christ. And of course, I got married at the age of 21 and to a girl that was a Baptist. And so where we went to church after that. It wasn't too, we're going to Baptist church. So, but have recently been going to an Episcopalian church, is the way old Brother Beanie puts it, and it's we've got a congregation, I think, just north of like 11,000 people in this little town that really has no town. But it's exciting to be part of a group of great faith-based people. So.
Well, it's great to get a chance to know you on a more personal level. I mean, we've got your Twitter account is fantastic, but we're also, it's exciting to see new people in Congress and people who are working hard and doing good things. And so I would encourage everyone to follow Congressman Collins on Twitter. It's at Rep Mike Collins, and just follow along with what he's doing there. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, sir, and thank you for taking some time here with CBN News and the DC Debrief. We really appreciate it.